There's an answer, Greg.
Jake Humphries, Platinum Sports Picks NFL. We are 13 and 16 on the year with a minus of 7.50 stakes. That was a little bit of audio from one of our winners over the weekend. Jacksonville Jaguars +2 hosting the Indianapolis Colts in London. We went 3 and 1 on the weekend and kind of doing a little bit better, or I would say a lot better than what we did at the start of the season. 13 and 16 is a hell of a lot better than where we used to be, and we've got a chance here right now to kind of go from negative to positive this weekend with a really big week, and that's exactly what I'm aiming for. I'm not going to muck around too much. I'm going to go straight into the games and talk about what we have on deck for week 5. We've got 14 matches, which means 4 teams have byes, and I haven't exactly confirmed what teams have the byes yet. I'm just going to go through, and I'm sure I'll figure it out as I go along. Now, we're going to start with a Thursday night fixture, and we have hit 2 Thursday night plays in a row. We hit the New England Patriots money line in week 3, and we hit the under 47.5 between the Dolphins and the Bengals in week 4. And I'll see if I'm going to get some action on this game here, which is going to be the Arizona Cardinals going to the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this line has opened at 2.5, and it's since been bet out to 4. The San Francisco 49ers are a 4-point home underdog as it stands against the Arizona Cardinals. And the reason that line is a little small, or was a little small, I believe there's a bit of a question mark over Carson Palmer. He's probably going to be out with a concussion. He got concussed in the game against the St. Louis Rams, and they have the short day turnaround, and Bruce Arians said there's a chance Carson Palmer will be cleared in time for Thursday's game against the 49ers, but as it stands, he is doubtful. So if Carson Palmer was to miss this weekend's game, they would have a backup quarterback in there going on the road to play at San Francisco, and even though the 49ers are 1 and 3, it's still a bit of a tricky thing to do. Take your team on the road in a divisional NFC West game without your starting quarterback. So it is pretty tricky. So we're going to need to wait on the news to see what's happening with Carson Palmer. I can see that the public money is pretty spread, although a lot of people have been betting on the Arizona Cardinals, which has obviously pushed it from 2.5 out to 4. But I'm not really sure if I would be too happy betting on the Cardinals, given the fact that it is on the road and they are going to be most likely missing Carson Palmer. Probably wouldn't play a total on this game either, just because 43.5 is quite a low total, and I don't like playing totals. I like playing unders a lot, and I'll play the over occasionally, but I feel like totals are really hard to deal with, man. They're really tricky. There's especially when the total line is moving around. This one's moved up 1 point from 42.5 to 43.5, and I'm not too sure what we're going to see here. The Cardinals can definitely score points. They've got a couple of big offensive weapons. And the San Francisco 49ers, they're not the most offensively sound team, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got 20 points out of them or something like that. It's just tricky, man. 43.5 is a low total. I'll probably leave this. I'll probably leave the whole game, I would say. The only scenario where I would have a play on this game would be is if Carson Palmer gets ruled out, and we can get the San Francisco 49ers for somewhere around 4.5, maybe 3.5. But even at that point, that Arizona Cardinals defense is still very dangerous and could really, really trouble the San Francisco 49ers offense. And it really wouldn't matter if Carson Palmer was there. So we're going to move on from that game. We're going to talk about the next game, which is the New England Patriots minus 10.5 at the Cleveland Browns plus 10.5. Obviously, Tom Brady is back for the Patriots. They're 3 and 1. And really a good position for Tom Brady to be coming back in. A lot of people were saying, oh, well, if the New England Patriots can get themselves to a 2-2 record, or maybe even a 3-1 record, then Tom Brady's going to be able to do very well down the stretch. I think most people were hoping for 2-2, but they ended up going 3-1. They got shut out by the Bills on the weekend. It really wasn't a good performance, and it kind of let everybody know in New England and everybody watching the games, hey, it's probably time for Tom Brady to come back into this offense. The Cleveland Browns are 0-4. They're 1 and 3 against the spread. They're a bad football team. They're the only team in the NFL who hasn't won a game yet, and they're really not looking like progressing too much. This line of 10 is certainly a pretty big line, and I don't really like the idea of betting on this game, just because I know there's going to be a lot of public action coming in on this game. I think the line's pretty tight. I think 10.5 is pretty spot on. It's not really something that I want to mess with. Laying 10.5 points for a road team like the Patriots, I'm not saying Tom Brady's going to come back and play poorly, but I am saying it might take him some time to get things going. He's facing an unfamiliar opponent like the Cleveland Browns. Doesn't play those guys all that often. I don't really like the look of this game. I don't like the look of a total. I don't like the look of a line bet. It's not something I'm going to be betting on. I'll leave that for the every game punters, or I'll leave that for other people who have a bit better of a read on it, but I certainly don't. It's not something I like the look of, and I'm not going to bet on it. So I think it's probably safe to say that the Arizona Cardinals game is not going to be bet on, and the San Francisco and the New England Patriots game is not going to be bet on either, unless drastic line movement forces me to make a play. We have a lot of baseball coming up in the next few days, and I'm really going to test my hand with that. 47 since the All-Star break, plus 1.58 stakes. And even though that's not overly impressive, a winning record's a winning record, and I really want to try and improve on that in the postseason. And I'm thinking I can get a couple of winners in the next couple of days. So if we weren't able to get on the Cardinals San Francisco game just based on me not liking anything, there would be a baseball game on that day. I believe that we could get some action on. So the next game we have here is the Philadelphia Eagles -3 at the Detroit Lions +3. And this is a game where I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to draw a lot of public attention. They have gone from 2.5 to 3. They're 3-0. They're travelling to the 1-3 Lions. Look, I guess looking at this game, the approach I would take is the Lions are a home underdog. They're getting a full field goal. The Philadelphia Eagles are probably going to be heavily bet on by the public. They're 3-0 ATS. All the arrows are pointing in favour of the Eagles winning and covering here. But, a lot of the time that doesn't happen. More often than not, it doesn't happen. We saw the Lions, what they did when they were asked to cover 2.5 to 3 points in Chicago last week. They went in there and lost. And even though the Eagles are a little bit better than the Lions, it's never easy covering points when you're travelling on the road. Never easy. It's very, very rare that you'll see me take a minus line with a road team in the NFL, because the home field advantage really does play a major factor. And the Philadelphia Eagles went to Detroit last year and they got blown away with I think it was Mark Sanchez in quarterback, or they had some sort of bum in quarterback, and they got blown away by the Lions. And I think that this could potentially be a game where the Philadelphia Eagles struggle a little bit. Not saying it's going to happen, but I'm not really too sold on laying the 3 with the Philadelphia Eagles on the road. It's probably not going to happen. This game is leaning more towards a no play for me, but if we could get the Lions to 4 or 3.5, it's something I might look at for a stake. But I am trying to get a couple of big stake plays, like what I've been telling you guys I'm going to be doing for the last couple of weeks. I've been telling you guys that I'm going to get out a couple of hammers, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm really going to try and get that going for you guys. Now, the next game I'm going to look at is the Chicago Bears +4.5 at the Indianapolis Colts -4.5. Both of these teams are 1-3 straight up. They're both 1-3 against the spread. They're both pretty disappointing. Oh, excuse me. They're both pretty disappointing. The Chicago Bears got their first win last week in a home game against the Detroit Lions. The Indianapolis Colts went to England and they lost against the Jags. I guess Andrew Luck was hoping that he'd be able to get some momentum going after beating the San Diego Chargers. But the fact is, that Colts football team is just too bad. Across the board, there's really not a lot happening here. Now they're being asked to cover 4.5 against the Bears. I'm not touching this game at all. The Bears are a pretty bad team. The Colts aren't as bad as the Bears, I don't think, but they still are bad. And with all the public money likely going on the Colts in this one, from what I'm seeing on covers.com, it looks like there's quite a bit of flow on the Colts. But, each website tells a different story. From what I'm seeing from this line, it actually could be a pretty even line. I think a couple of people are going to like the look of the Bears +4.5. It's a pretty big spread for the Chicago Bears, who aren't that bad on defense. Might be able to keep this thing close. But for me, it's not something I'm going to mess with. I'm going to try and steer clear of teams who I have thrown under the bus, like the Bears, like the Lions, like the 49ers pretty much, like the Browns. plus numbers are appealing, but sometimes they're not appealing when you're dealing with a really, really bad team. So anything could happen to the Bears. They could get blown out. They could lose by 30. So I'm kind of going to stay away from that one, most likely. So 4 games so far. I don't really like anything. And this is the first time I'm looking at lines. First time I'm looking at lines this week, and this is what I'm telling you. The next one we have the Tennessee Titans plus 3.5 at the Miami Dolphins. Tennessee Titans having a back-to-back road game. Very, very tricky to do in the NFL. They played the second road game. On the weekend, they lost in a bit of a heartbreaker to the Texans by 7. They didn't cover. The Titans now find themselves as 1-3 against the spread. The Dolphins are also 1-3 against the spread. Oh, I can't stop yawning, guys. Sorry. The Dolphins also 1-3 against the spread, and both teams have a 1-3 straight-up record. Probably must-win territory now for both of these teams, especially the Dolphins, who have the Patriots in their division, who are 3-1. The Titans have the Texans in their division, who are 3-1, but I don't think the Texans are anywhere near as good as the Patriots, and we found that out. The Patriots are probably going to win 12 or 13 games maybe this season. The Texans might only win 10. So I think the Titans are closer to the top of their division when you talk about who they're trying to chase. But they're still going to want to win this game, the Titans. I think the Titans are the better football team here. Obviously, you guys know that I'm relatively high on the Titans. We have them to win over 5.5 games this season, and if they want to cash that futures bet for us, they're probably going to need to win this game. 1-4 wouldn't bode too well for that play that we put out there. So yeah, I'm feeling a little bit tentative about taking the Titans just because they haven't been playing very well. But this is a spot where I do like them. On the road, you get a full field goal and a hook. And the Dolphins at home, they were really, really, really bad. However, the Dolphins, they were very bad on prime time, but they do get this 10-day turnaround. They do get to play in front of their home crowd, and they do have a good defense playing against a young quarterback like Marcus Mariota, who has turned the football over quite a lot since the start of his career. So a lot of question marks, not the most reliable team to play, which would be the Tennessee Titans if we were going to put some money on them. Yeah, I'm really not too sure about this one. I guess out of the first 5 games, the Tennessee Titans plus 3.5 is my most favoured bet through the first 5 games. Number 6, Washington Redskins plus 3.5 at the Baltimore Ravens. Last week, the Baltimore Ravens lost outright. They were minus 3.5, and all the money flew in on the Oakland Raiders. And I was a little bit worried about that Raiders, but they covered and they won outright. And now we've got the same line for the Ravens, and we've got pretty split public action on this one. Pretty split public action. It's looking to me like it's honestly looking like a 50-50 job here. I think, I'm not even going to call a favour to one side. I literally think it's about a 50-50 thing here, where we've got half the public on Redskins 3.5 and half the public on the Ravens 3.5. What do I like in this game? Look, I can't get a read on either of these teams. I like the Redskins, man. I think they're a good team. I think Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. They've got some good offensive weapons. I like their coach. I like what they do. But the same goes with the Baltimore Ravens. They've got some good players on offense. They've got a good organisation. Both of these teams want to win, and I think both of these teams could potentially finish with winning records. The Baltimore Ravens have probably benefited from a bit of an easy schedule, and we saw last week when they played a team that was kind of past just the mid-level. They lost by 1 point in that game, and the Redskins started 0-2, and they've done a really, really good job clawing back. It's not easy. I think this game is probably going to be a little bit more high-scoring than what the total has been quoted at 44.5. I think the Redskins' offense is maybe a little bit underrated. I think they're really, really good. What would I play in this? I would look to play the Redskins plus 3.5. The Redskins plus 3.5 and the Titans plus 3.5 are two things that I both like, but they're not going to be something I'm playing for 3 or 4 or 5 stakes. Okay, next game, Houston Texans at the Minnesota Vikings. The stars are aligning for me to probably take the Vikings in this game. I can tell you right now that the line in this one is -6, and I think Minnesota will cover that, no problems. This could be a big bet for me. The Vikings are 4-0. They're 4-0 against the spread. They're -6 hosting the Texans. A lot of people are going to think this line's big. A lot of people are going to think this Texans team is going to be good enough. But you know what? The Texans aren't as good as what everybody thinks they are. Their quarterback is pretty crappy. He's beaten 3 teams this year. He's beaten the Bears, he's beaten the Titans, and he's beaten the Chiefs, all at home. And he has beaten those teams on the back of some really good efforts from his defense. And then when he had to go to the Patriots, he got blown out 27 7-0. And so, they're 3-1 overall, but they're 0-1 on the road, and they're 0-1 against the spread on the road, and they're travelling to a place where the Vikings are going to hold this down, man. The Vikings are 2-0 against the spread at home. They're 2-0 straight up against teams at home. They beat the Packers, they beat the Giants, and their defense is incredible. Honestly, their defense is so good. They flocked the ball so quickly. They're so well coached. They've got a stud on every level. They've got Everson Griffin on the defensive line. They've got Anthony Barr in the linebacking core. They've got Harrison Smith, Xavier Rhodes. This team is nuts. The Houston Texans have a good defense in their own right, but it has nothing on this Vikings defense. And I think when people are looking at this game, they're going to say, oh, well, the Texans are getting spotted a full 6 points. Surely the Vikings won't blow them out. Well, think again. I think the Vikings might blow them out in this one. This line may creep up. It may get to 6.5. This line may creep down. It may get to 5.5. It may get to 5, because I do think that it is a pretty big looking line for a team like the Texans, who do draw a lot of public money from time to time.